Hello and welcome to TotoTCG. You are here with me, Matthew, and we are back here with another Pokemon video. So of course we are on to now the 5th out of the 6 different GXs which were announced in Champion Road. So, of course we're talking about a new GX. The background gives away a sort of hint. We have seen this one before. If you remember, we had a GX from the newest set, Thunderclap Spark, and that was Genesect. And that featured this Pokemon, and I said we're going to expand on it a little bit more when we get to it. Well, today is that day. We're going to be checking it out. What Pokemon am I on about in particular? Well, we are on about Scizor GX. An incredibly awesome Pokemon. I absolutely love it. Number one, I love Scizor. And the fact that they evolved it and then gave it a Mega Evolution was just incredible. And it's interesting because obviously the two have very similar designs and obviously they do evolve from each other, but the colour scheme is completely different, which is what I love because it separates them completely. Yes, they evolve from each other, but they're completely different. And the fact that Scizor was a grass Pokemon, and in fact in this set it is a grass Pokemon, and to evolve it in Pokemon Go you use a metal coat. I think it's the same sort of thing if you are evolving it in game. It doesn't just get to a certain level and just go, hey, I'm going to evolve now. I think you need to either trade it with a metal coat attached or attach a metal coat and it'll evolve. Somewhere along that line. But it's really cool how obviously it sort of grows into almost like a metal beetle type thing. Very, very cool indeed. Super, super awesome choice. So, of course, it is Scizor GX. It is a metal-type Pokemon with a HP of 210. Now, that is great stuff. This is up there with Zoroark straight away. So, that's really cool stuff. I think 210 for a Stage 1 is pretty high. Gyarados, of course, does have 240, but that's Gyarados. That's Gyarados. There might be a few others which are a little bit higher, but it's pretty good with Zoroark, which I find a really, really good position. It is obviously Stage 1 Pokemon, so it will evolve from Scizor, and Scizor will be coming out in Champion Road. Very, very nice artwork. Both of these cards were in previous EX type sets, going way back a few years into like EX era type stuff. These guys were there. They've reprinted the sort of artwork they've used. A card from before. I think it was like an EX card for Scizor. And they've sort of edited the abilities to obviously become more GX orientated and everything. So that's pretty cool. Very, very nice indeed. So of course we will have a little look at the Full Art and Rainbow Rare for this card. So we have the Full Art right there. Looks incredibly awesome. Love that silver background. And the fact that you can see the whole figure, the whole character there, is incredible. I love the wings in the background, that sort of blue. You can even see the feet at the bottom have that sort of like silver pincer look. The fact that it's got that yellow and blue target on the side of the claws, I'd like to say, yeah, really nice, really, really cool indeed. Of course, the Rainbow Rare. Exactly the same image, but made into a rainbow. And obviously, it's really cool seeing that bit of red, especially on the head and the claw, because it sort of carries on with that red there. Very, very nice indeed, though. Very, very cool card. But the attacks and the ability, again, another card with another ability. Really, really cool that we're getting a lot of GXs with abilities, and some of them are really, really cool. So let's have a little look at this ability. It is called Danger Perception. As long as this Pokemon's remaining HP is 100 or less, this Pokemon's attacks do 80 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, bearing in mind, it has 210. So a Zoroark would probably be able to hit it for about 150, which puts it into that zone. So that's pretty cool. And seeing as Zoroark is a very playable card, that's pretty cool. Buzzball, as long as it doesn't use the GX, it can do, I think, 160 with the move for three fightings. And seeing as a few items are going to be rotating out, for example, Regirock EX, and also we're going to get Fighting Energy, that's going to be, not Fighting Energy, Strong Energy, that's going to be going, that's going to get wiped out. So that's going to less buff Buzzwole. Of course, we do have Diancie, but that's just Diancie, so it's going to be interesting. But it shouldn't. Even with a choice span that's 190, it still puts it into that bracket of being able to do 80 damage. So, as much as it's risky, it's a pretty cool thing to do. Pretty cool indeed. I like it a lot. So how does this affect all the other attacks? Well, let's have a little look. So the first one is called Steel Wing. Very, very nice. I like that a lot. Does 80 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30. So number one, that's really cool, because you're doing 80 damage for just 2 energies, pretty cool. You're also deflecting 30 damage, so I mean, that is even better. So a Choice Band is almost getting wiped out. We'll sort of have it as that. If they have a Choice Band, that gets wiped out. But the fact that if you are under 100 damage is really cool, because instead of doing 80, you do 160. At a Choice Band, 190. You're KOing Tapu Lele, and probably a few others as well, including Buzzwole, for example. So that is really, really cool indeed. Very, very nice indeed. It's really, really interesting indeed. And there are a few cards which we will talk about in a sec, which could sort of help bump this up a little bit. To have more health and be able to sort of survive a bigger attack, even though attacking it for a big amount would pay off in the long run. It'd be risky, but it would pay off, which is why I like it. Very, very cool. So let's have a little look at this GX here. It's called Crosscut GX. Now, it is for 3 colourless, but I mean, three metal energies on there, easy peasy. Happy days. What does Crosscut GX do? Well, it does 100 damage. And if your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolved Pokemon, this attack does 100 more damage. Now that could be risky. Now let's try and think of stuff in format now which is quite current and recent and up there. We're talking Golisopod, we're talking Zoroark. We can't say Buzzwole, can't say Lele, can't say Lapras. What other stuff? Naganadel, that is evolved. Ultra Necrozma, no. Malamar, it does say active Pokemon is evolved. Not that you want to attack Malamar with a GX. That would be crazy. Dawnwing's Necrozma, that's just a basic. So there's quite a few things in format that are basics. So the GX itself is going to be very situational orientated. There are a few cards which could probably see a bit of play. I'm only mentioning this one just as a random one. Empoleon. The water Empoleon that came out in Ultra Prism. The thing where every single bench Pokemon is the attack. So I think it does 20 for every benched, which it could add up to 200. That is evolved. You could then knock that out, because I think it had about 160 HP. So that is pretty cool indeed. It's just very situational, so whether you would want to use this, I'm not too sure. I don't think you would, personally. It might be good in some situations, say you go against the Zoroark Golisopod deck, bang, yeah, it's happy days. You can do 200 damage there with the Choice Band, 230, good night, everything. That is Golisopod gone, that is Zoroark gone. So it's pretty cool, pretty good in the right situation. Now, I'm thinking that even without having the evolved Pokemon and being under 100 HP, it does say all attacks have plus 80. So that means this GX would be doing 180, a Choice Band 210. So even without using that double, you're probably going to be able to get a pretty solid KO there. And I will just check with that. We'll go back just 2 seconds. Or less. This Pokemon's attacks do 80 more damage. It doesn't say anything about it's not the GX. So that is all attacks, which is pretty cool indeed, it has to be said. So you can do some pretty decent damage with that GX, so that is definitely a very, very, very cool card to keep in consideration. Whether it will see play, I don't know. That's the big question. I don't know. It doesn't have a weakness to Dark, Grass, or Fighting, which is pretty cool. It has a weakness to Fire. And Ho-Oh is really the biggest threat at the moment. Volcanion will be getting goodbye. And the fact that it actually has a resistance to Psychic, which is a good counter to Buzzwole, which you'll probably be seeing quite a lot by the time this card comes out. So that's going to be pretty cool, because even if you do go against that, you'll be like, well, hold on, I've got a little bit of resistance, so how you doing? So that's pretty cool indeed. But like we were saying, we got the GX, so if it does get knocked out, it will take 2 prize cards. We already know that. It's weak to Fire, which we have just discussed. The Psychic there for -20, and then it does have just a retreat of 1, which is really cool. Really, really cool indeed. I like that a lot. So being able to have that 1 retreat, at least then you could use the GX, use it to retreat, you'd still have enough to do that 80 there. Plus, if you were under 100 there, you could then do 160 for just those 2. So it's really, really cool. Really nice. I really do like this card a lot. It could be pretty interesting. Now, one thing to mention, I haven't mentioned this before with any others that have evolved from the previous ones, but the Scizor card, which will be coming out, the first attack in particular, I can't remember the name, but the attack itself is, you basically, I think it's just one colourless, which is good as well, because obviously Scizor is a colourless Pokemon, or sorry, it's grass, but it uses colourless energy, which is pretty cool. So this thing could get actually powered up with one metal and a colourless. The colourless comes from just adding it to the Scizor, you add a metal, bang. It's almost as if you put a metal coat on the Scizor to evolve it, so that's pretty cool. But that Scizor's attack in particular actually allows you to go through your deck and search for 2 Scizors to put on the bench. So you can then have that Scizor up the front, doing that attack, get 2 on the bench. It almost reminds me of Frogadier from the Greninja Break sort of thing. As much as it's find 3 Frogadiers, this way it's getting 2 Scizors. So you are still getting your bench sort of sorted out for just, so it's almost like having, not Call for Family, but Beacon. It's almost like having a Beacon, but just for those basics to fill up your bench with more Scizors, which is pretty cool indeed. So yeah, I think this card could be really, really cool. A lot of fun. And obviously the Scizor card itself is pretty cool. And just for what seems to be just 2 energy attachments, which is a metal and a double colourless, is insane. So that's really, really cool. So, without further ado, let's have a little look at what works. So, we have, for example, we got Magnezone here, which could be pretty cool in this. Not that I don't think you'd be relying on it a lot, but this is just for metal support if you wanted to put it in with a metal deck. Obviously, you can attach as many metal energy cards from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So that's pretty cool. We've got Solgaleo Prism Star as well for that Radiant Star. For each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a metal energy card from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. So say, for example, on their bench, they have 5 Pokemon. Bang! That's 5 you can bring out of the discard, so a very late game card. But that's 5 that you can power up onto any Pokemon you want, which is pretty cool. Throw in there Metagross GX as well. It did see a bit of play, not so much now. Do I think it will come back? Probably not really. There's a lot of other cards in the format now which are sort of like up there, so I don't really think that will be coming back. But it's good to mention because obviously it is a metal type. But I think with this deck you really want to try and focus on Scizor. I'd even actually say maybe do Scizor Zoroark, because you've then got you've almost got a counter to Buzzwole. As much as Buzzwole, I think Zoroark is weak to fighting. I think it is. Trust me not to know. It's either it's gotta be. I swear to God, it's fighting. I think it is. I think that's why a lot of people have been playing it. But there we go. You could also, Scizor and Zoroark at the same time, because at least then you still got the access to the Zoroark stuff, especially if you're running DCE, which is all that Zoroark needs. Really cool. Really cool indeed. We got Metal Frying Pan as well. I wanted to mention this one because obviously if you do attach this to a Pokemon, it takes 30 less damage. Now, bearing in mind, if you do the Armor Press, I think it was called, or Iron Press, the second move for the Metal and Colourless, you're then getting 30 resistance. Add this on, you're getting 60 resistance to any attack, and you're dealing out 80. If you're under 100, hello there, you're doing 160, and still having 60 damage reduced off you, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. We got Mount Coronet as well, which obviously does help get that energy back out of the discard pile, so if you are managing to get rid of that energy, you can bring it back with Mount Coronet, so that's pretty cool to mention. We got Dustmane Necrozma, which sees a lot of play now, especially with that Solgaleo Prism. Late game, that Solgaleo Prism onto that, even when that is just straight up there, is happy days. The sort of thing at the moment is having Magnezone, Solgaleo Prism, and Dustmane Necrozma all in one deck, which it does work, but it's a little bit sort of luck orientated. We got Dialga GX as well there. That's a nice one to mention. The Overclock is sort of okay. It does say, what's it say? Draw cards until you have, I think it's 5 or 4 in your hand. That's pretty cool. And the Timeless GX as well. If you really wanted to put 5 energies onto a GX, obviously it allows you to do 150 and then you get another turn, which is brilliant. But would you really want to spend 5 energies on it? That's the big question. And we've also thrown in there Celesteela as well, which does see a little bit of a play every now and again, but not much. It's not the biggest and baddest GX ever. But that GX is pretty cool because obviously you do 180, and then I think you flip all over your prize card so you can see exactly what's going on, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously there was Genesect GX, so if you haven't already seen that video, definitely go check that out. That won't be coming out in our Celestial Storm set, it'll be coming out in our next set, which hasn't got an English name just yet. But that's definitely one to bear in mind, because that's got some pretty interesting attacks, and it's a basic metal, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think this could be very, very interesting indeed. Very interesting indeed. But yeah, there we go. That's some of the stuff that I think would work pretty well with it. So moving on from that, let's get on to Guess the GX, the answer. So I gave you that little picture right there. Probably slightly easy, maybe. You can see the background, you can see what element it is, but can you work out that little bit of a creature right there? Well, of course, it was Lapras GX right there. The full art for the card. If I put the shell, that would have just been super duper simple. So we'll just plonk that there. So there we go. So let's have a little look at the Guess Your GX for this one. We have got this picture, and that picture right there. So there we go. That is this one done. I have to say, it is really, really cool. I definitely really do admire Scizor GX. It looks to be an absolutely incredible card. The Scyther would work well with it, and it's just coming up with a nice combination which would work well with it. And I think maybe Zoroark with it would be pretty interesting, because Zoroark is pretty easy to get set up and going, especially when you can just rely on setting up your bench with all this stuff, and then bang, you can do 120, and with a Choice Band 150, you can get this thing to come along and do some pretty insane damage. Maybe they're chipping away on you with a bit of a Tapu Koko, who knows. You can then bring that up and be like, well, hello, you've just activated my special ability, how are you doing? And they're like, okay, I surrender, fair enough. I got nowhere to go. So yeah, very, very cool indeed. Definitely enjoy the look of this card, and I cannot wait to actually get it in hand and sort of see what other people have got to say about it. In terms of that, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this, as well as the Guess the GX answer. And of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button below for more of these news updates. Of course, Celestial Storm will be joining us pretty soon on the channel. The pre-releases are in about 3 weeks' time, so as long as I can get these GXs done within that time, which should be no problem, then we can move on from that, check out some of the other cards as well, and go from there. But yeah, there we go. I will leave it here for this video. Hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video on the channel.